opportunities to admit your own mistakes. Apologize to her locker.
How can I apologize if I don't know what I did wrong?
Well, didn't she call you inconsiderate? Looks to me like you know exactly what you're talking about.
Leonard, what are you doing?
Abed's Fort needs pillows. I was going to lie there. I was going to invest in IBM in 1952. But life is full of disappointments. Any pressure, are we?
Hey, Tom, what are you doing with something?
No, nothing. Actually, we're completely young. Who do you think I am? I lived in New York.
You never lived anywhere. You're a women designed for sex. You only think you live in New York because I implanted your memories.
Here, stop it. Look at what we call me. Sir,
Yeah,
Did you just drink ink?
just plan this out some way. You'll never have to see it again. Till then, you're interested. And for God's sake, slap some life on those dead lips.
hello, Abed. What's the pillow for? I'll make you something perfect. Yeah, I remember that. Senior management of Bruce Clubhouse. Those two bad guys on motorcycles. Think fitted for a beard of bees.
Well, true or lies, they are sitting have a look-see at your blanket fort. Garrett, we're still more than 2,000 square feet shy of the record. I'll bet Hello Fort is the only thing standing in our way.
What if you do get this? Is there a way
Can't expect a blanket fort to the pillow fort still call it a pillow fort. And if you could, I'd rather see my work destroyed than compromised.
Great. Ahmed will destroy his pillow fort, and Choi will expand his blanket fort into the space of your friends.
Except, well, you know, not everything. Is that what you want, Troy? For me to destroy my pillow fort so you can set your record?
It is.
Magnitude. Evacuate Fort Abed and prepare for self-destruct.
Sir?
Do it. We're done here.
Oh, our values, our identities, they mean nothing to me now. Only the privilege Don't apologize to this guy.
You told me to apologize.
To a dead girl's locker. I thought I was representing the sisterhood. I thought I was teaching you a lesson about all the girls you dominate and then ignore. Not to waste your energy on some weird, cloying, hypersensitive stalker with a girl's name.
Hey, you're really mean.
Put it in a letter, Jane Austen. What's going on?
I'll ask some questions here. You had sex with someone. I recorded it. You know what? I'm gonna let this one slide. What? I know we have very strict rules against romantic entanglements with humanoids, but at this point in time, we can't stop them from having hearts. These two are clearly express that. This is what it is. You know what? Now I'm not leaving. Now I'm just going to sit for a while and focus on how unacceptable today was.
Jeff, I wanted to apologize. I never realized I had my own issues regarding gender roles, and
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to have you all here with us today. We got 5 people watching now. We're just gonna wait for a couple more people and then we will get started, as is our routine. Good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, Chris. Will you be teaching the other class on Monday? No. I told you guys tomorrow is my last day with you guys, so I'm not going to be teaching any other classes after tomorrow. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, I think we're just gonna get started. I don't want to wait too long. So let's do it. Let's just get started. Okay, so this is the worksheet that you are given here. 4.5 equation of a line. So this is what you should have printed out right here. So we're just gonna work through this this section. We're gonna finish it off in 2 days, so today and tomorrow. It'll be fairly short lessons today and tomorrow, and then we'll end it there. Okay. So have this page open. I'll wait a couple seconds for people to be prepared. If you have a ruler, please bring a ruler because you are going to need it for this. Okay, and I have my ruler beside me now. Okay, so equation of a line. We're going to plug in, let's do our table of values for the first one first. If we plug in 1 into the bracket, that's 1 times 2, that's going to give me 2. 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. Then 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. And then 4 times 2, it's going to give me 8. So what we're going to do on the right side when we graph it, first let's draw our graph. We're actually going to draw our graph like this. Okay, and then we're going to mark our 0 here in the center. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're going to draw a graph like this, and we're going to plot our points. So our first one, 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 6. So we get our line that looks like this. Okay. So there's our line. So that's equation 1. Equation 2, you'll notice that the equation is now y equals 3x. So it's going to be 1 times 3, 2 times 3, 3 times 3, 4 times 3. And we're going to get the 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. So we're going to get 0, 0, 1, 3, 2, 6. And we can't really plot the other two, but we're going to draw this line here. And get this one there. So this is in black, and this is in purple. So the question here is, how did the value in front of the x change the line? So what's the significant difference? What's the difference between these two lines? What would be, and anyone in chat wants to show me, or use a word to describe what's happening here. What's the difference between the two? What did that number change from 2 to 3 cause? What is that main difference? Anyone? Hello, Amir. Good to have you join us. Anyone? No one knows what's happening when the 2 compared to the 3. What looks different in our graph? What looks different here? The black one looks steeper. Equation 2 is a steeper line, right? So we can see that the 3 and the 2 seems to change how steep the line is, and you'll notice black is equation 2, purple is equation 1, and you'll see 1 is not as steep as 2 is, right? 2 seems to be much steeper, so we'll keep that in mind. Now let's go to the next one here. Now make a table of values of the following equation and graph the line on the grid provided. So plugging in 1 in here, it's going to give me 1 times 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 times 2 minus 2 is 2. 3 times 2 minus 2 is 4. And 4 times 2 minus 2 is 6. So if we try to draw this graph, seeing that center as 0 here, okay, if we make that center as 0, my points would look something like this. And this would be my line. So make sure you understand how to draw these graphs. Okay? So table of values, you're plugging in 1 into the x times 2 is 2, minus 2 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6, minus 2 is 4. And 4 times 2 is 8, minus 2 is 6. And we're going to graph those points here. Right? So if we graph it, we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. and -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, like that, right? And so you should be able to graph it, and you're good to go. Okay, so let's move on into the next page here. It says here, we want to keep that graph there. So let's compare the lines of equation 1 and equation 3. Okay, so equation 1 was this purple one here. I'm going to actually draw it in black. So this is equation 3. I'm going to draw equation 1. And it looks like this. Well, I did not draw that correctly. That's okay. There. Sorry, that's equation 1. And if you look at the 2, what happened to these points? So, looking at the points here, what's the difference between the black and the purple line? You'll notice each point moved down 2 spots. From black to purple, each point has moved down 2 spots. And the only difference between the equation was the -2, because the first equation didn't have a -2. This one has a -2. So this one has a -2. So that's shifting our graph 2 points down. So compare the lines. How does -2 change the line on the graph? The line moved 2 squares down. And if you want to say units down, that works too. With the -2 change. Okay? So now this is important because this leads us into our main big topic of this semester, which is the equation of a line. Okay? So one general form of an equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. So we have our rate of change, m, and our b is our y-intercept. So this is important. You need to know this. You have to remember this. M is slope, and b is your y-intercept. Okay? So if you're given an equation of a line that looks like this, you should be automatically able to get the slope and the y-intercept just from looking at the equation. So let's look at example 1 here. Joe works full-time selling newspaper ads. He is paid $5 for each ad he sells. So let's make a table of Joe's earning that goes up to 60 ads. Okay? So $5 for each ad. Let's do that. So $5 for each ad. If he sells 0 ads, he's going to make $0. If he sells 20 ads, that's going to be 5 times 20, which is 100. If he makes 40 ads, that's going to be 5 times 40, which is 200. And if he makes 60 ads, 5 times 60 is 300. And so there's our values there. I'm going to actually move on and kind of finish this off here. Okay. So B. Let's say Joe received the raise. He's now paid $10 for each ad. If he's paid $10 for each ad, 0 times 10 is 0. 20 times 10 is 200. 40 times 10 is 400. And 60 times 10 is 600. And then the last one here. Okay. Newspaper has owners. Joe has a new boss. He's assigned to high-end accounts. He's now paid $50 and $10 for each ad. So if he makes no money just for coming in, he's going to make $50. Then it's going to be 10 times 20 is 200 plus the 50 he's getting. So 250. Then plus the 50 is 450. And then 650. So now we have our earnings for Joe. So what I would like you to do is create the graph for me. So we have number of ads here. We have earnings here. and then it's going to be earnings versus ads. And can you graph all three of these earnings here for me? I'm going to do the first one. Well, let's set up the scale. You want to make sure zero's in the corner for this one. And you want a scale that goes from 0 to 60. So maybe we can go every... let's go every 3. So 20, 40, 60, like that. And then 80. And then for your y-axis, we want to make sure we include 0, and it goes all the way to at least 650, which means I think we can go up by 100. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800. All right. So we have our graphs, we have our scales here. Now we can graph it. Okay. So when we graph it, our first one here is 0, 0. There's our 0, 0. Then 2100. And then 4200. And then 6300. And so there's our first line here. This is our first line. Okay, so there's our first line. Our second line is 0, 0. 2200, 4400, and then 6600. So there's our graph. And there's our second graph there. Our third graph starts at 050, then 2250, 4450, and then 6650. And we're going to get a graph that looks like this. And there's our three graphs. So you'll notice there are slight changes in these graphs in comparison to our first one, right? There's our first line, our second line, and then our third line. So our first line is where Joe makes $5, right? So for equation, what would equation A be? So if we write y equals mx plus b, we need to figure out the slope for Joe. Now remember, when you're figuring out for slope, you're looking for per, for each, for every. And in equation 1, we're going for each. There's our for each, which means this number here must be our slope. And so that's going to be 5x, right? So that's going to give us 5x. And does he get paid something every day? No. In our first situation, he gets nothing, which means it's just going to be y equals 5x. Perfect. Then for B, we have now situation B here. He's paid $10 for each ad. $10. So for each means 10, which means our slope is 10, and so that's the number that goes in front of x. And so that's going to give me y equals 10x. Okay? Once again, he's not paid any extra. He doesn't get paid for starting work, right? But for situation C, although it says per day, we're looking at only one day anyways, right? We're getting $10 for each ad and then $50 for coming in, which means the slope is still 10, but because he gets paid that extra 50 just once, we're not paying you $50 like multiple times, just once, we're gonna add a plus 50. Now if we look at these lines and these equations, we'll see y equals 5x is right here, y equals 10x is the black one, and you'll notice we looked at our lines before. If we look at this situation here, we said looking at the number in front of the x, the bigger the number, the steeper the line. So we'll notice that the black is steeper than the purple because black had a bigger slope. Is that situation true here? Yes. Our purple is our 5 slope, which is down here, and 10 is a bigger number. That's our black line here, and the black line is definitely steeper. So that's true. In comparing B and C, here, you'll notice the black line and the purple line are the same slope, right? That makes sense. The 10 is the same, so the slope doesn't change. But the reason why the third line is higher is because of that plus 50. It moved up the line by 50 on our scale. Okay? And so that's why we have our graph shifted up by 50. Now let's go through our direct and partial. We've been talking about direct and partial on Monday and Tuesday. So is this direct or partial? I want someone from the chat to answer me. Is this direct or partial? Direct or partial? Perfect. I'm sure you says direct. Very good. That's perfect. What about part B? Is it direct or partial? Equation B, direct or partial? John says direct. Absolutely. That is definitely direct. And C, direct or partial? Partial. Exactly. And the way you tell, once again, do you have that adding or subtracting number at the end of it? If you do, right, then it's partial. If you don't, it's direct. And you can also tell from the y values. If the initial y value is something other than 0, it's partial. Everything else that's at 0, 0 is direct. So we have Anna, John, and Trey getting it correctly. Very, very good. So I want you to keep that in mind, and I want you to use this as a guideline to solve and do page 20. So page 20, I'll bring it up on the screen right now. Okay, so here's page 20. Okay, so this is page 20. I want you to complete this page here. It's called Task 3, the equation of a linear relation. I want you to complete this page. You don't have to get together to do this, but I want you to try this page, graph it, all that kind of stuff. And tomorrow's class is not really going to be a lesson. We're just going to take all of this up, and that's it. So today's lesson was really short for now. You'll get more practice with it on Monday with Miss Lifshitz. But for today, this is your homework. Okay? So practicing equation of a line, identifying initial value, identifying rate of change. Okay? So I want you to work on this. So that is it for class today. Does anyone have any questions about transitions or marks or anything like that? One main announcement is your mark on Teach Assist is now fully updated. I've marked everything. Your test before the March break, anyone who's handed stuff in on Google Classroom, I've marked every single one of those. So please, if you have any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, I have uploaded everything that I needed to. And just remember that tomorrow's class is the last day I have with you. So please do not expect me to teach you on Monday. It will be Miss Lifshitz moving forward. If you have not checked the announcements, please check the announcements and comment "got it" on her post so that she knows that you've read it and I know that you've read it. All right. So that's going to be our transition. And we're going to be going. On Monday, are we still going on this account? No. Miss Lifshitz will be posting videos directly onto Google Classroom that you will watch there, and she will also be holding some Google Meets instead that you can join and speak with her there as well. Okay, so it will no longer be on YouTube starting on Monday, I think, unless she uploads it on YouTube for you to see. Okay, so you should ask Miss Lifshitz specifically about what her lessons are going to be when it happens on Monday, if you have access to it on YouTube, but I'm sure you will have full access to it on Google Classroom anyway, so I don't think you have to fear about that. Okay? Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, please complete your homework. All right. Why is this happening? It's because I told you at the beginning of the year I was not your permanent teacher, and you should have expected, or you should expect a teacher change if worst comes to worst, with situations arising, because this is technically her class. I was technically a supply until she came back, and now she's back. So that's how it is. All right. So have a good rest of the day. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me and stuff like that. But otherwise, have yourselves a good one, and peace out.